The part-time workers who play an increasingly important role in our economy may be grossly underpaid. That's according to some new research by advocacy group RideFair. It found that some gig workers earn well below minimum wage. JJ Fueser is a researcher with RideFair. JJ, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with the findings here. We have minimum wage laws for a reason, to set a floor under wages. How does it happen that some drivers or delivery people actually earn less than that?
Well, you don't, in fact, start out knowing that they earn less than that because while you hear workers talk about below minimum wage earnings from the platform companies, you hear statements like they earn $33 per engaged hour. That's where we start. We start with company estimates of median earnings for drivers of $33.35 per engaged hour. And that sounds great. It sounds like roughly double the minimum wage, but it leaves out crucial information. Workers spent less than half their time engaged, is what we found, and they also have to pay expenses out of that money. And what they're left with is closer to $6 an hour.
And of course, this is part of an economy that's very flexible. Some of these workers are, we call it gig work. You may not like that term and they may not like that term, but some of them have other jobs. This is maybe part of a bigger picture of income. Is that flexibility important to the workers themselves? In other words, is this part of the deal of this kind of work?
Flexibility is certainly important for the workers, and it does not preclude adequate payment. So the problem is platform companies are at the same time willing to let workers be unpaid for their idle time, but then also don't want to do anything to minimize that idle time. So we have a group of people whose time is not being used very efficiently. And that at the end of the day hurts the consumer too, because if workers are spending all of their available time being productive and earning money, you don't have to pay them that much more to get to the living wage. But if they're only spending 10 minutes out of the hour, for example, productive or engaged, then you have to really hike those prices in order to keep that work attractive.
One of the big debates around this part of our economy has been whether these workers deserve all the same protections as employees. Are they, in fact, employees? And we've seen different jurisdictions handle this differently, JJ. Where are we with that? Because, of course, employees are paid for all of our time, not just the engaged time. There's a lot of our days that aren't spent, actively, productively at work. Where does it fall with these workers?
So, The reason that this is a question at all actually is because platform companies have made this a question, and in many jurisdictions you're starting to see these workers who are effectively managed by an algorithm be recognized as employees. I think British Columbia, for example, just declared them by statute to have employee status. But taken from another perspective, whether or not that's the case, I think we still can't afford to see this level of below minimum wage earnings. And there are things that municipalities have done to try to reestablish a floor below which you cannot go for gig workers like drivers and couriers, like in New York City, which has developed a minimum pay standard. And that's all about being judicious, making judicious use of people's time when they're on the app, so they don't spend most of their time waiting for orders. They actually are able to work.
Is there a solution to this problem that's obvious?
There are many solutions to this problem. One sits in front of the City of Toronto, and that is in fact to optimize the fleet of ride-hailing drivers and follow New York's lead in putting in place a minimum pay standard.
JJ, it's really important research. We appreciate your time for this.
Thank you for having me.
JJ Fueser is a researcher with RideFair. Time for the takeaway and the importance of dotting your I's. There's a lot of legitimate excitement about artificial intelligence, which in its more primitive form is already changing how we see and receive information from some sources and improving service delivery of many products by tailoring them to our needs better. But there is also growing concern about where it has the potential to go and if we're following or leading. This week, it was revealed that user-generated content site Reddit has struck an agreement with an unnamed AI company to have its content used as source material for its AI software. It was just the latest such deal as large firms make side agreements with content creators so they can access raw material on which their software can learn. The early tools of both generative AI and large language models need data to comb through. It's understood that the higher the quality of the data, the higher the quality of the output. Makes you wonder what kind of AI will come from Reddit, which has a pretty wide range of quality. But the Reddit deal is a timely reminder that we're probably way behind the 8 ball when it comes to regulating artificial intelligence. For one thing, a world in which silos of information are formed so that some AI tools use only certain sets of information and their rivals use others doesn't seem like the best scenario for a broader public. Could we force all AI tools to access the same data? Does that imply all data? To be sure we don't put weird restrictions in place. And do we really want all data available to AI developers, even if it does seem more fair? If we agree that information is the new oil, as in the hot commodity of the economy, do we really want to give it away? And if we don't, do we risk a tilted platform where deep-pocketed companies own access to some data and leave others in the cold? My takeaway? Our policy around AI feels like it could use a little more intelligence of its own. That's Taking Stock for this week. I'm Amanda Lang. Thanks for being with us.